are recording.
Hello, guys. Welcome back to our 10th episode.
Number 10, the sweet double digits. You'll love to see it.
I'm honestly so shocked we got to 10 already.
It's gone by so fast.
And I feel like I say this every single episode. I'm like, wow, we're already on episode blank. But honestly, for real, though, it literally feels crazy that I've gotten to 10 so far. We've gotten to 10.
10. You love to see it.
It just kind of flew by, too. I mean, we've just been having so much fun.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
I know, I love all the planning that goes into it, too. We get to, pick topics, and then we get to research the topics, and then we get to tell them to y'all, and then y'all get to listen. So it's awesome. I love just having this experience.
I agree.
I know,
this is fantastic.
I can't wait to have 10 more.
10 more, and then another 10.
Mm-hmm.
Another 10.
And another. And another.
Anyway, how was your week?
I was about to say that too, so I was like, on that note, how was your week?
I asked you first.
I don't want to answer first, but you go first.
You don't want to answer. Okay, I'll go first.
I want to hear about your week.
Hear about my week? All right, well, just like pretty much most weeks, it's been relatively uneventful. Still just kind of doing me. Got my job thing going on. Got some busy stuff at work, but nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary. So I guess mostly no news is good news. How about you?
My week has been pretty good. I'm just prepping stuff for my next venture, so that's fun. I will keep y'all updated with that, but I want to keep it a secret until a little bit later. But yeah, so I've just been getting stuff ready to do what I need to do, and since I have no school, I get to relax a little bit. And actually, I got a call from, I guess it was an academic advisor. I don't really know who this was.
Okay.
It was funny. She's like, "Hi, this is Karen." I'm like,
Karen.
Her name was quite literally Karen. I'm like,
No.
Okay, I don't know who you are. I'm like, that name doesn't mean anything to me. And so she called me, and I was so close to not answering the phone because I was pretty sure it was going to be a scam call. So
right.
I answered it 2 seconds away from going
Oh no. Just imagine.
Poor Karen would have been so shook. She would not have understood. But I'm glad I didn't. But I answered the phone, and she's like, did you check your school email? And I was like, no, why? And she told me that they canceled one of my summer courses.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, she just put me in another course that was the same. I think it was just the teacher. She just had low enrollment for that specific course, so she just put me in another one.
Ah, okay. Was it the same teacher?
No. I was kind of bummed because I had previously taken that teacher. I don't remember if it was... No, it was last semester, but she was really good. I did really well in her class, so I thought, why not? I'll take her again. So
Yeah,
I guess I do not get to do that now. Now I'm stuck with a guy. I don't know what his name is, but it's the same class. Should be the same. Hopefully he doesn't make it too hard because... Y'all know how summer courses are. They're just all condensed into literally 1 month. So, and I'm taking 2 courses too. I'm taking algebra too. I hate math. So,
scream it out loud, baby.
Pray for Alexxa, please.
Yes.
I need it.
And I got you with that. I actually kind of like math. Math was one of my stronger subjects in school, except calculus. I hated calculus. That was the worst.
I don't even know what calculus is. I don't even care to know.
Yeah, please don't ever do it.
None of my business. But yeah, so thank you for telling me about your week, David.
And thank you.
Of course. So to just kind of get started on today's topic, I really wanted to begin with something a little bit different. So when me and David were planning on what topic the episode was going to be this week, we decided we were going to do something that we both felt passionate about. So after talking about the topic, I knew automatically that I had someone close to me who had a scary experience that I think would be very pertinent to today's topic. So before we do much talking, I want to play this story and I just want you guys to listen. She will tell everything in the story, and I just want you guys to hear about this experience.
Yes, let's hear it.
A few summers ago, actually quite a few summers ago now, because I was 18 at the time, I was working at Pizza Hut and I got a call about a job interview the next morning for a gym I had really wanted to work at. So I got off work at 9 and I was really excited, so I run over to the Kohl's so I can get a new shirt for my interview before they closed. So I get to the Kohl's, I run inside to get my shirt, and I come out, and I'm in a hurry because I have to be up the next morning for this interview. So I jump in my car and I just immediately put it in drive, and I run straight over the concrete barrier in the parking lot. And I knew it sounded terrible. I knew something was wrong, but I was embarrassed. So I kept driving. And I looked down and I was like, oh, well, I need gas. So I go just down the road to the racetrack, and I pull in and I go inside and I get my gas, or I pay for my gas, and I come out and there's oil all over the ground. There was no way that I could drive this car with how much oil was on the ground, and I knew it was bad. So I started my car and my oil light was flashing at me, and I got just enough to get it out of the pumps and pull it off over to the side of the building, just kind of out of everybody's way who's coming in and out. And so I call a tow truck, and I had AAA, and they always ask you, they're like, well, are you in a safe space? And I didn't really feel safe because it was the gas station at night, but I'm off the roadway. And so I told her, I was like, yeah, well, I'm safe. She's like, okay, well, we'll get somebody out there as soon as possible. So I hang up with her and I start the waiting game, and I start texting all my friends, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. Look what I did. What am I going to do about my interview tomorrow? How am I going to get there? And one of my friends who was still at work at the Pizza Hut down the road, she texted me and she's like, well, you shouldn't be there by yourself. And she got off at 10. So she's like, well, I'm going to come wait with you after you get off. It's because, it's not safe. It's at night. You shouldn't be by yourself. And I was like, all right. So she comes over to wait with me, and we probably wait together for about 45 minutes. I'd say it was nearly 11. It was late. And the tow truck pulls up, and the gas station, I can't remember, I think it was a weekend night because it was still relatively busy. And the tow truck driver pulls up, and we get out of her car, and he starts loading up my car. And we're just sitting there waiting for him to get done. And my friend nudges me, and she's like, look at that guy in that car over there. And she points to this Kia that's kind of parked in front of the building. And I was like, yeah, I mean, he was looking over at us, but it wasn't anything that kind of struck me. And she's like, he's just acting real weird. So we were kind of watching him, but pretending like we're not watching him at the same time. And so eventually that car pulls out and it leaves. And it's taking the tow truck guy forever to put my car up. So we had a lot of time, and probably about 5 minutes goes by. And we're still hanging out, and that car had left. We weren't really worried about anything. And we see the same car pull back into the parking lot, and it goes back in the same spot. And we're kind of watching him, and at the same time, pretending that we don't see him, trying to be sneaky. And we see him sitting in his car, and he reclines his seat back, but he's still kind of looking in our direction. And that's when we kind of started to get really freaked out. And we're like, okay, this is really weird. So he finishes loading up my car, and he comes over, and he's like, okay, well, who's going to ride with me? So I was going to ride with him to go back home, and my friend was going to go drive back to her house because we lived in completely opposite directions. So I was like, well, I'm going to ride with you, and she's going to go back home. And he's like, all right, well, he's like, I don't mean to freak you guys out, but I've been watching that car over there, and I don't know, he's acting real weird. He left and he came back, and I've seen him staring at you guys. And we're like, oh my God, we're like, we saw him too. And he's like, okay, well, I'm glad I'm not being paranoid. And he's like, my daughter was kidnapped and murdered when she was younger. And he said, ever since then, I've just been kind of hyper aware of everything going on around me, which is very understandable. So we were all a little freaked out. We're like, okay, well, let's just get out of here. I'm with this big tow truck driver. I'm not really that scared. My friend's about to go home. So I get in the tow truck and she gets in her car and we both pull off onto the same main road. And I'm still a little scared, so I'm looking in the rearview mirrors behind me and I see her car and then I see this Kia pull up, the same car that this guy was in. And we were freaked out. And we start driving down the road and he pulls up we're both in the same lane. The tow truck driver and my friend and I were in the same lane and she's right behind us. So he can see her in the rearview mirror. And he's like, well, I told him that I had seen this Kia and he's like, well, call your friend and tell her to stay close to us, even though that wasn't the direction of her house, because he wanted to keep her in his sight too. So we start going down the road and the Kia pulls in front of us and it just turns into this 2-lane highway where the speed limit is about 60. And we start going and he starts slowing way down. So we pass him because we're like, okay, this is weird. He starts going like 30 and we just go around him. And she's still behind us, so we can still see her too. And we keep going and we're like, okay, this guy has to be following us. And so at this point, we're really scared and we call 911, or I call 911 on the tow truck driver's phone because I was using my phone to talk to my friend at the same time and make sure that she was okay. And I explained to the dispatcher what's going on and she's like, okay, well, I want you guys to slow down and see if he'll pass. So we slow way down. The speed limit's 60 and we end up going like 40 and he still stays behind us. There's a ton of places where he could pass us. The tow truck driver's flashing his lights. He does not pass us. So I tell the dispatcher, I'm like, okay, well, he's not passing us and he's still behind us. And she's like, all right, we'll keep driving. And she's like, well, what road are you coming up on? And there's this side road, this really dark side road. It's a pretty busy one, but we're all in these country roads right now. So she's like, well, you have this road coming up and I want you to turn right onto that road and you can pull over and wait until a squad car gets there. And we're like, okay. So I tell my friend on the phone, I'm like, we're going to pull off on this road. So we pull off on this side road and we turn right. And he keeps going on the main highway. So we're like, all right, maybe we just got freaked out over nothing. And we're pulled off on the side of the road and he shuts his lights off and she, turns her car most of the way off. And we're just sitting there and we see these headlights coming up the road. And it's that same Kia coming back up the road that we had turned off on. He had turned around at some point on this busy 2-lane highway. He had made a point to turn around and come back on the road that we were on, because at that point, there's only one way in and one way out. There's no other little side roads you can take to get to where we were at. And so he just goes straight past us and we were freaked out. So the tow truck driver, he immediately jumps in the truck and he starts it. My friend gets in her car and she starts her car and we just take off down the road. And I'm still on the phone with the dispatcher. And I'm like, oh my God, he just turned around, he just passed us and we're really freaked out. And she's like, okay, well, we'll just keep driving. And she's giving me directions, telling me where to turn because she's telling me where the officer is too. And we just start driving. And so we're going down these dark, kind of windy, they're all country back roads. The kind of place where you would have no idea if you were going if you were not familiar with them. So we round a corner. And at this point, the tow truck driver had told my friend to get in front of him so he could see her and not have to worry about what's behind him, knowing that this car was in front of us. So we go around a curb and I'm on the phone with her and I hear her like yelling and I don't know what's going on. I'm freaking out. And before we know it, we're just flying past this guy on the side of the road and he had pulled over on the side of the road and there was nothing around us. It's just all field. He wasn't in front of a house or anything. And so she saw him out of the corner of her eye outside of his car and she just gassed it and she went flying past him and we all went flying past him. Because we're like, we have no idea why this guy's outside of his car. First off, he's following us and now he's getting out of his car in the middle of nowhere. And we didn't take the time to say anything to him and we took off. And at this point, we're all really rattled and the dispatcher connects me to the officer who's headed our direction. And I'm telling him, everything that happened and I'm catching him up. And he's like, okay, well, I'm about to be there. He's like, I'm literally right on top of, where you guys said this was. So just keep going home and I'll take care of it. So we're like, all right, the cops are here. It's fine. So we keep going. And my friend's like, well, I really have to get gas now. I had to get gas before. and now I really need it. And so I'm like, okay, great. They pull into the town that I live in, which is way far away from where she's supposed to be. So she needs gas before she can go home. So the tow truck driver follows us into the gas station. And we're sitting there and she's getting her gas. And then we see the same Kia come up and pull into the gas station. And it's the same thing. We get in our car and we take off. He didn't even get the chance to say anything, to do anything, because we were out of there way too quick. And I called the police back and I was like, oh my God, this guy, it just came into the gas station again. After we had already avoided him 3 times, the officer said that he had pulled him over and was going to talk to him. And the dispatcher basically said, there's really nothing we can do. He said he wasn't doing anything. It's not illegal what he's doing. Which, I get. And especially since my now fiance was a police officer, I kind of get, the way the law works, that you can't do things based off suspicion. So we go home and I didn't see the Kia anymore after that. We go home and my friend goes home and the tow truck driver helps unload my car, and I gave him a hug because it was late and I was really emotional and I'm like, oh, this is so scary. And I was like, thank you so much, for everything that you did, because you went, way above and beyond. You didn't have to do anything like that for me or for my friend. And he's like, and he's like, if somebody would have been there for my daughter, it would have been way different. And I went up and I looked up his daughter's name after I had left, and I'm not going to say it here because I want to share his business, but she had actually been abducted in front of her house. She was murdered, and I believe she was dumped in a river or something like that, but they didn't find who did it for a long time. So it was pretty crazy. And I think the scariest part is the not knowing, what was he trying to do? Why was he out of his car in the middle of nowhere? Why did he follow us down these roads? And just not having those answers, I think, is the most unnerving thing. What if he does that to somebody else? Or, I'm just grateful for that tow truck driver. I called the company the next morning and I was like, this guy was so great. I really appreciate him and all that he did for us. And they were like, yeah, he's a great guy. And, I was like, he had some unfortunate things happen to him, but I was like, he still stayed really positive, and he just helped us through a really scary time. So that's about it.
That's a crazy story.
I know. And then when I asked her to tell that story, she was all like, yeah, well, it's not really that good of a story. What are you talking about?
I'm in agreement
Shut
with
up.
you. Yeah, that's insane.
But yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, when we were thinking about what topic we were going to do, I really wanted to try something different. So I did want to include that story because, as y'all heard, how crazy is that,
That was insane.
I've heard so many stories on social media of just random women on social media, but sometimes even people I know who are like, yeah, this guy was following me around Target, or I got in this Uber and he tried to kidnap me. I think that we need to talk about self-defense, because it is absolutely ridiculous how crazy or how easy it can be for us to get targeted. And I don't want to see any of y'all become a target, much like how the person in the story we just heard was literally targeted by some random dude. She didn't do anything. She was literally at a gas station and he followed them. I know the distance of how far away this was. He drove a good 20 miles following them.
That's insane. And what, I just don't understand. He didn't do anything ultimately, which is good, but how, what was his intentions anyway? That's just crazy to me.
For literally what? Because I assume what he was trying to do, or what he thought, was that both girls were in the car together, and I think maybe he wanted to just get the car and get them. And I talked to this person about it a while back, when it happened, and she said that she thinks that maybe the person getting out of the car, she thinks that maybe when he was out of the car, he was going to try to jump in front of the car to get her to stop. But knowing the girl who's driving the car, nope. Hell no. She would rather run him over
That's
any
funny.
day of the week. As she should. As she should.
Honestly, yeah.
Oh no, a sick creep trying to attack women gets killed? Damn, that's crazy. Anyways. It's like, am I supposed to feel bad?
What
I
a
don't.
shame.
Also, how she mentioned in her story, stuff like this happens a lot. And there are a lot of times the police can't even do anything because technically what the attacker or predator or whatever else is doing isn't technically even illegal.
Mm-hmm.
But there are many ways that you can protect yourself. So today we are going to talk about self-defense and the different methods of self-defense and how you can protect yourself and just some tips that we've thought of to help you guys stay safe, because I'm so sick and tired of seeing people go around and being harassed by people or being attacked and being targeted. I'm so sick of it.
I absolutely agree, because it's just it's sickening, and like you said, when they can't do anything about it because it breaks, it's not breaking the law what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's suspicious, something's gonna happen, and unfortunately the police can't do anything until after something has happened that is illegal. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the worst, but that's sadly how our system is. And that, again, like you said, it's important to know self-defense, because you don't want to wait till something happens to actually be able to defend yourself.
Well, exactly. I know there's a girl who I'm friends with. She's literally being stalked by someone close to her who she's cut out of her life. And I have experience with somebody who quite literally stalks me. So it's frustrating. I don't want to see any of my friends. I don't want to see anyone be targeted by these creeps who literally cannot mind their own business and not be disgusting.
Exactly.
And want to attack women.
Yeah.
This could get me so heated. But so the first thing we really want to talk about is martial arts, because we both have a background in martial arts, and I think that it can be something very helpful. It's just a good basis for self-defense is martial arts, because you learn how to move your body and you learn how to move with other people's bodies, and I think it just really helps create that foundation for self-defense. So I think I'm going to give it to you, David, to start out with, because you are definitely a lot more passionate than I am. So I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So yeah, I have, I think, around 12, maybe 13 years of experience in a martial art called Budo Taijutsu. It's strictly self-defense. There's nothing that's sport about it. We only learn how to defend ourselves, and that's really it. There's no sparring. There is something called randori, which is kind of the sparring aspect of it, but sparring is more mentioned towards sports and if you don't know what sparring is, it's basically just fighting freely without it's just basically using your knowledge of what you've learned in martial arts and applying it. But when it comes to defending yourself in the real world, the first thing I would say that is incredibly important is do whatever you need to do that is necessary to get home safely to your family. That's basically the biggest fundamental rule when it comes to martial arts. If there is something that is a threat to you, do whatever you need. And I'm going to use this word very you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Do whatever is necessary. Don't do whatever you may know, right? I'll give you an example. If someone on the street came up to me and just pushed me, I'm not going to throw a lethal strike at them. I'm not going to break their legs. Or I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to do what is necessary. The biggest one I would say is, and I think law enforcement use this term, is called verbal judo. This is where you basically talk your way out of a situation. Say hey, I don't want any trouble. You'll probably beat me up. Try to stroke their ego even. It makes them feel better, and maybe they'll have pity for you and they'll go away.
I think this is just my opinion, because I'm somebody who doesn't really like to fight unless I have to, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And on top of that, I just don't necessarily have to worry about that much. This sounds stupid because I know that I'm not immune to having a fight picked with me, you know what I mean? I've
Right.
never really had it happen before, just because, I mean, if you see me in person, I'm a big fat bitch. I'm gonna be real. So I'm a bigger woman, and I'm like 5'10", so I'm huge compared to like other women. So they don't really want to pick fights with me. But that's not saying a guy wouldn't try to like attack me.
Right.
But it's like the best method, I feel like, is to not even start a fight, because I know that realistically I'm not gonna be able to kick a guy's ass unless he's like some little fragile cock or something. I'm not gonna be able to like kick his ass, like, you know what I mean? So
Right.
I think the best thing you can really do is just like do that sort of verbal judo. Is that what it's called? Verbal judo?
Exactly.
Yeah, because you shouldn't just automatically resort to fighting unless you are actively being attacked, because I think that's just stupid. If you have to settle a fight or like an argument by literally physically fighting somebody, you're immature.
Right, exactly. And my actual instructor at my dojo has told me that if you're in a physical altercation, in some ways you've already lost because you couldn't talk your way out of it. Now, of course, each situation is kind of independent and can be analyzed as such. If someone just came up to you and started physically fighting you, that's a little different. But if there was talk beforehand and then you just were like, yeah, I'm gonna just fight you, then yeah, like you said, Alexa, it's just immature, and in a lot of ways you've already lost.
I don't know. I always just like hate the people who resort to fighting. I remember being in high school and there was this kid, and I know it's a little bit different, but anytime he get drunk, he just want to fight someone, and it was always so annoying and always brought down the vibes. And it's just like, dude, you're so immature. Get a life.
Yeah.
Like, why do you have to constantly fight people? And he wasn't even doing it for fun. Like, he literally just wanted to beat somebody's ass because he was an angry drunk.
Wow, I hate people like that.
It's just like, dude, you're a fucking loser. Just get a life. Like, why do you have to, like, physically fight somebody to feel good about yourself?
Yeah, it never made sense to me either. I never understood it.
It's just... And then what bugs me even more about it is that 90% of the time, it's not a consensual fight. He's literally attacking somebody because, I don't think this would give anything away because this is literally years ago, but I went to like one high school party ever, and I got pretty drunk, not gonna lie, but I was with my best friend at the time, and it was me, her, and her boyfriend, and we were in her boyfriend's truck, and in the middle of the night, I didn't even wake up during this. I was literally, I passed out on top of a pizza box in the trunk, or like the tailgate of his truck.
Oh my gosh.
And apparently during the night, this kid, the one I was talking about who always likes to pick a fight, went into his truck and like pulled him out of the truck and just started beating his ass for no reason.
Jeez.
Not saying this guy didn't deserve it. I mean, he wasn't talking shit about the guy or anything, but I guess it's just karma. Because he was kind of a awful person too, but he didn't even do anything to like instigate a fight. So it was just very annoying, and people were like pulling him off of each other. So it's just like, to me, I just think that's like always just like a bottom barrel, low level if you have to just beat someone up for no reason.
Yeah.
I think the only reason you should be like physically fighting somebody is if it's, you know, you're like training for martial arts, or you're like doing it consensually with another person, or you're like literally have no other options and you literally are protecting yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other way, I'm just like, dude, you're a loser. Sorry.
Exactly. And knowing martial arts, having a martial arts background is always helpful when it comes to that kind of thing, because you can defend yourself in cases like that if you really need to. You know, you don't have to take a lot of hits. You don't have to be kicked and beat down. You can know how to defend yourself and others if you really need to. And a lot of times people are kind of hesitant to join martial arts because there's a lot of stigmas around it. A lot of people think it's fake. Some people, it's weird. It's different. There's a lot of different types of martial arts, and I want to dive into some of them. I'm not going to dive into a bunch because there is a lot of different types. We'll kind of just talk about some of the more popular ones. The first one I want to mention is karate. And
Yeah.
karate covers many styles of self-defense, which involves like kicks, punches, and open hand. People call them chops, like karate chops. Um,
Yeah.
and then also in karate, they have different levels of ranking. A lot of people see it as like different belts and stuff. Personally, in the martial art I do, again, it's called Budo Taijutsu. There's not a bunch of different belts. There's white belt, green belt, black belt, and within green belt, you have a lot of different ranks. I personally think it makes it easier. You start out as what's called ninth Q with green belt, and you go 8th Q, 7th Q, 6th, 5th, all the way up to first. And after first Q, you get your black belt. And to me, that just kind of makes the system a little easier. You don't have to remember, oh, is this belt after that one, or like whatever. So I always thought that was kind of interesting about my art. But yeah, that's kind of karate. You see a lot of people going like, hiya! You know, I kind of think
Yeah.
that's a little unnecessary. The martial art I do, we train. It's actually the art of the ninjas. If you ever seen ninjas on TV, that's actually Budo Taijutsu. We don't really train as like the ninjas they do, like where they hide on ceilings and wear those masks and stuff. We don't really do that, but yeah, a lot of the time it's those unnecessary sounds. Hiya! That's not really a thing in my art, at least. But the next art I want to mention is jujitsu. That's a pretty popular one. It was developed in China and Japan. It is kind of like a mix between Aikido and Judo, which I will talk a little about. These rely really heavily on grappling and kind of close proximity with the opponent. Lots of body contact. Jiu-Jitsu, a lot of the time, uses attackers' momentum against them, uses joint locks. And joint locks are pretty useful. Again, in all of these arts I do within the art I do, I don't know about these other arts exactly in terms of like what they incorporate from other martial arts. There's just slight distinctions between a lot of them. And maybe if you were trying to look into martial arts, maybe some of these descriptions can help out. Maybe help you make a decision even. So the next one I want to get to is Aikido. And just like Jiu-Jitsu, it's a Japanese style art. And it's a lot of body contact. Aikido doesn't focus very heavy on kicking. I did attend an Aikido class once, and it was again just a lot of using round movements to kind of use someone's balance against them. You can use joint locks in there. It's not necessarily the most common, but I have seen it.
They use a lot of joint locks.
Oh, okay. Now you have done Aikido, right?
Yeah, I did it for years. I mean, they're not all based on joint locks, but a lot of like the different like throwing techniques are.
Okay.
This was a while ago I did it, but I mean, I still remember a lot from it. It was my life for years. There's even one point where they had summer camp there, and I was there all the time. I'd spend the night there, wake up early in the morning, do meditation. We call it Zazen.
Oh, okay. Zazen. Interesting.
Yeah, we do that, and then we train, and we trained a lot. So I think, like, personally, when I think of Aikido, I understand that it's not really something that you're going to use 100% in, like, self-defense, because a lot of the techniques you're going to do rely on the other person kind of being consensual with the movements. So it's a lot of, like, as you were saying, like, big, round movements and stuff like that. And I think that that's, like, a big misconception from some martial arts, because, as I said, I haven't really trained, like, others, like you were saying, but just personally from my experience, I think that martial arts are a very good foundation to develop skills to get to a point where you're good with self-defense, because you can learn these different grips, like, oh, if somebody grabs both my arms, I can just like yank down really quick and they lose their grip, or if I turn a specific way, they lose their grip on me, or if I do a specific movement, I'm not stuck in their grasp anymore, and you learn about how the body works. So I think that really incorporates into learning self-defense. I don't think that it's like 100%, at least for Aikido, I don't think it's 100% like you're learning to kick someone's ass or you're learning to defend off attackers. I think just personally what I've gotten from training and doing Aikido, I've learned to kind of just like protect like my core, and I've learned how to like effectively move someone how I need them to move and do stuff like that. It's not just me kicking and punching them and doing whatever.
Right.
And I've learned like different like grips and like how they work and how the body works. So that's just what I've gained from Aikido. But I know that a lot of people have other experiences, but that's just my personal experience with it. And it's very good to like, personally, if I were going to start with a martial art, I would start with Aikido. That's just me.
That's fair. That's fair. And, you know, I want to say that was incredibly well said. I really liked the way you incorporated that and saying how that was within your own experience. And one thing I want to definitely kind of focus on what you said there was how the other person needs to be a little more consensual in the movement when you're doing it. And that is where I feel a lot of people feel like martial arts can be fake, because they're like, well, in the real world, no one's going to consent to you moving them. They're going to resist against it. And like you said, it helps you incorporate, it kind of changes and revamps your brain and rewires it to kind of say like, okay, I can move a person this way if I move this way, so long as they're doing this. And it really does help. Learning martial arts is not something you can just get overnight. It is a constant do it over and over and over again. And the reason is because you want to basically make it second nature in your brain to be able to make these sort of movements. My instructor has always told me that you want to think a different way than your opponent. And I'm going to use the ninjas on TV as an example, whether you've seen them in cartoons or movies or whatever. If someone walks into a room, the camera will pan up and there's like a ninja just chilling on the ceiling, right? No one thinks to just be like, oh, let me look on the ceiling, check if there's somebody there, right? It's because the ninja thought differently than the opponent. And so that's kind of the same deal with martial arts. If you move a certain way that somebody's not expecting, then it could be really effective against them. Whether or not you've trained in a very controlled environment where everyone's very consensual and just kind of moving with you, or if it's even in a very brute sort of sense, very brute sort of style. Now, the martial arts I do is a little more brute in that sense, that the other individual could be not as consensual with your movement. Like they attack and you just go straight for the throat kind of thing, and, you know, step behind their leg, knock them down. It can be very intense. And when I first joined an Aikido class, I feel like it was a little less than ideal. And again, everyone's mileage may vary. The reason why I'd say that is because the specific dojo I went to had a lot of, I don't want to say elderly people, but everyone is above 50. I was the only person that was, I think I was like 20 years old at the time. And they're like, they specifically told me, it's like, we need to go light in this dojo. We don't want to hurt anyone. And that's just not the way I've trained forever. I've always trained kind of on the more rough side. And to me, I feel like that's also very effective, but being very, like you said, with consensual with movements, also super effective. It's all about how you prefer to train.
I mean, that's just not my experience. I mean, this is just coming from somebody who is just very close to the people who owned the dojo and everything. So we would train hard.
Oh, okay.
But I have been, I don't want to say that, but she told me, she's like, you could not be going hard with me, because she's an older woman, which is fine.
Right.
It made me so upset. I was like, I didn't even think I was going hard.
Yeah. And during that time, I just took that one class at that dojo. I was going really light, and they're like, David, please calm down a little bit. And I was like, wow, I wasn't going hard at all. So it was like, it's a little less than ideal for me, but that was just my experience with it. One class. Again, everyone's mileage may vary. All dojos are different.
Yeah. You just gotta find something that really works for you.
Exactly.
Don't really I wouldn't just stick with something just because you think it's the right thing to do. I would stick with something that you think is going to help you, and it's going to help you learn. And then even if you like this specific art style, if you're not with a dojo that is like working for you, just find a different one.
Yeah. You could transfer across the same style of art, just do a different dojo.
It's like a church. You just got to find the right church.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
So now that we've talked about some forms of martial arts and how you can protect yourself in that hand-to-hand combat aspect of it, I think the next important thing to talk about is weapons, because inevitably you're going to come across a time where you're like, damn, I wish... Well, Actually, holy fuck, I hope people don't do that. There might be a time where you're like, damn, I wish I had pepper spray, or I wish I had a knife, or something to protect yourself. And I hope that nobody ever has to deal with that. But in the instance you do, I'd like to go over some weapons that I think could be helpful and what I think like the upsides and downsides of them are, just from my personal opinion. But
Absolutely.
But before I list some of the weapons recommendations, I do want to make it known that I understand that these aren't for everybody. You know, what might work for one person is not going to work for another person, just depending on who you are, the type of personality you have, and that's fine. I'm not going to say, oh, you need to carry a gun. You need to protect yourself. You need to carry a gun. If you don't want to carry a gun, that's 100% fine. You are obviously within your rights to not do that. I just want you guys to be safe and protected. So I'm going to list as many as I can think of that I think are effective. I'm not an expert by any means, but I just coming from my own opinion, I think these would be like fairly effective and after doing research. But also keep in mind that depending on where you live, whether that be the United States, where we are, or another country, laws may vary. What you can carry may not be legal in one place, but may be legal where I am. Just please do your research.
Exactly.
And then the last thing I want to mention before we get into the weapons is, please, as I said, do your research. These are not toys and they should not be treated as such. Some of these are like lethal weapons, should not be played with.
Yep.
And yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my top pick, of course, is concealed carry, because personally, I have been raised around guns my entire life. I'm not some super big hillbilly, like, yeah, they're gonna take our guns type shit. You know what I mean? Like, I've just been raised around firearms my entire life. I'm comfortable around them. I know how to shoot them. And personally, whenever I find time, I will be getting my concealed carry license and I will be getting a firearm, because personally, I want to keep myself safe and I have the training to understand, since I have been around them my entire life, I know how to treat a gun, I know how to use one, and I know the consequences of using it inappropriately. Yes, there you go. So if you are over 21, even I think in some states, if you're 18, you can get like a shotgun, I think, but I'd honestly just wait until you're 21. But I highly recommend getting your concealed carry license. Do a bunch of research before you choose a weapon, because you don't want to get something that has like a huge kickback and you're like a little dainty thing and you just can't shoot it properly. So I really encourage you to spend a lot of thought and time into the weapon you want to get, because as I said earlier, what might work for one person is not going to work for another. So
right.
If you're not really sure where to start, you can really start researching on like YouTube, watch some videos, you can go on Reddit, some other forums, but a really good place to start is probably your local gun store. They could probably help you out a lot.
And like you said, I personally will probably get a concealed carry, even though I'm a 2nd degree black belt in Budo Taijutsu. I know how to defend myself with hand-to-hand combat, but it's so important to still have something like that to be reliable on.
I think that before you really get a weapon, I think you really need to consider if it works with your lifestyle, because there are some people who just, they don't want to have that consequence. It's like, oh my God, what if I accidentally kill somebody? Or what if my child accidentally gets into my gun case or whatever? And that's fine. Like, you don't have to feel pressured into getting a weapon that you don't want or you don't feel like you can handle, which I would never encourage somebody to do, because you want to feel comfortable with this weapon. You don't want to use it one day and it just feels foreign. You're going to want to like train with it. If you get a gun, you're going to want to go to the gun range and you're going to want to practice with it, so you're not just shooting randomly at an attacker.
Exactly. And there are plenty of non-lethal options as well. One option for a non-lethal weapon could be a taser and or stun gun, right? You can get them on Amazon pretty cheap. Typically, the stun guns or tasers, I think the term is used interchangeably. I know there's one that actually fires 2 metal probe projectiles into someone, and I don't think those are for public use. I think that's for law enforcement. But The other one is handheld. You can get them on Amazon. They're pretty close range. You have to be able to get it in contact with the attacker.
Yeah, you need to be in close proximity to each other.
Yes, exactly. Which is the bad part, because there's no like with a firearm you can create distance, but with a stun gun you kind of can't. You have to be right up on them. But it is pretty effective. My best friend once bought a stun gun on Amazon, and he would just randomly tase us. That was the worst. It's really painful. And if you're into the non-lethal sort of weapons, this is a really good option. I really feel like it's a very solid choice.
Yeah. When you get like a taser or a stun gun, I do recommend getting the ones that disable if the attacker like pulls it out of your grip. I think the way it works is that it's just a little I can't think of the word. You know how when you have like a Wii remote and you put that little strap over your arm? It's like that. So when the attacker like pulls the gun out of your hand, like the stun gun out of your hand to use it, it's disabled and it doesn't work because it pulled that lock out. Kind of like when you're on a treadmill and you pull that little thing and it just stops the treadmill.
Yeah, that makes sense. I haven't thought about that. That's really smart.
Because the last thing you really want is to have this weapon and then have it used against you.
Right, exactly.
Another really good option is pepper spray. So I used to work in a prison. Not the best time of my life, but I did learn some valuable things there. So at least where I reside in Texas, you have to be 18 to carry pepper spray, which is unfortunate for our younger members out here who do want to protect themselves. But We'll talk about that a little bit later, how you can protect yourself. But I know you can buy these in a lot of different locations, and they're like really easy to obtain. I literally remember that you could they were literally sold at the office store that I worked at.
Oh, really?
Dude, I have no idea why. They were up at the cash wrap, like as the like little grab and go things, which I think is crazy.
Like it's just a pack of gum.
Yeah, like, yeah, let me throw in this $10 thing of pepper spray. Why not? While I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. My biggest issue with pepper spray is essentially the cloud it makes. If you're in close proximity or indoors, it can cause allergies or irritation to yourself or others that you're not intending to affect.
Yeah, so I am going to kind of go into like different types of pepper spray, because working the prison, when you do like transport and whatnot, you can't use a regular thing of pepper spray. So you have to have alternatives. So the one you're thinking of, I think it's called the fogger.
Right.
So it's just like a big cloud essentially that's spraying at the person, and you're really going to want to do that one outside. You're not going to want to be near that, and hopefully it's not windy, because that's going right at you too.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you were to get one, I would probably recommend the Stream, because it's very similar to the fogger, except it's spraying out in just a stream, and it goes pretty far, not too bad, but you have to have good aim, and then there is the possibility that you're getting that kind of kickback from that.
Okay.
It might like leak on your hands or whatever. And then the other two are gel and foam, and I believe that we used foam for transport.
Oh wow, okay.
Because when you shoot the foam, it's not getting everywhere. So if you have a few inmates in the back and you're spraying at one, it's only gonna hopefully get on the one and not the other two in the back or whatever. Right. So those are really good for using indoors. Hopefully you would never have to use that indoors, but it's good because for those, there's really no chance of splatter. As I said, it's not really going to get on you. But the only thing you have to worry about is the person who got pepper spray, like scraping it off and then trying to fling it at you.
Oh, really?
Because that can happen.
Wow.
Yeah, apparently that's happened before. Working at the prison, I've never seen it, or I've never really done transport, but I have assigned these different pepper sprays to the people for transport. So
okay, that's super interesting.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was different types of pepper spray. I just thought pepper spray is pepper spray.
It's just spicy in a can.
Yeah. So if you guys want to learn more information about the pepper spray, I'll leave a link in the description so you guys can go to this website and read more about it. I thought it was really informational. So informational, is that a word?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was really informational, so I'll leave that in the description. But a few other ones I wanted to mention really quick are, of course, knives, you know?
Yeah, knives are a really good one.
The only thing, personally, I would consider when getting knives is because, first of all, I'm not a knife expert, but second of all, you're going to want to be comfortable with the size of the knife, and you're going to want to be comfortable with the grip, I guess, because the worst thing is just like having that knife slide up and you're slicing your hand.
Ooh, yeah. I was actually going to mention something like that. The way you hold a knife, and this is, we focus on this quite extensively in the dojo I go to, is to not hold a knife in your hand such that if you were to stab, say, a concrete wall, it would slide down your hand and slice your fingers. You'd want to put the butt of the knife kind of in your palm, so that way if you did stab something hard like a wall, the butt of the knife will just kind of go into your hand. It won't slide down your fingers, won't slice you up. So it's super important to know how to hold a knife and to use one. And like you said, be comfortable with the size. Don't be carrying around a machete, right? That's weird.
Imagine just pulling a machete out of your purse. That'd be kind of a bad bitch energy, dude. We love to see it.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
But another thing I kind of want to mention about knives is that this might sound a little bit goofy, but if you're going to carry a knife, just like any of these other weapons, you need to be comfortable using it.
Yes.
Like, you need to, I would say, at least practice a little bit. I know it sounds goofy, but like when the time comes and you might have to stab a bitch and you have this knife and it feels foreign, it's like it's not really going to be as effective. You need to kind of treat it as like an extension of yourself.
Exactly.
But just to list off these last few ones, we have the personal alarm. If y'all don't know what that is, it's basically, they work in different ways, but most times it's when you pull the little string from the alarm, it just goes off, gets really loud, and it's supposed to scare an attacker away, and it's supposed to get attention to you, but I don't know, personally, I don't know how effective that would be, just because you could be in like a desolate area with nobody around.
Yeah,
so
it could be, it's not an explicitly self-defending thing. I would say it kind of is like on the side of verbal judo almost.
Yeah, I think it's a really good tool to have just in case if you're like trying to get somebody's attention.
Yes,
I think that could help a lot.
absolutely.
And then of course you have like the little cat ear keychains or the other keychains you kind of see on social media or whatever, and they're cute. They have like the little pointed things there, and you just have it clipped to your bag or your keys or whatever, and it works well for hand-to-hand combat. But the only thing I would keep in mind with those is, first of all, you're going to want one that's like sturdy, because a lot of these ones are just made out of resin. Like, that might crack.
I've actually never heard of these. What are they?
You might be able to look it up really quick. Just look up cat ear keychain self-defense and it'll come up.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so a lot of people will make their own out of resin. Just, I would keep in mind you're going to want one that's kind of sturdy. And then on top of that, you're going to want it to be accessible. If it's on your keychain or on your backpack, you can't, chances are if you're going to fight, you're not going to have time to like take it all the way off your back and then like rummage through your stuff to find your keys and then take it off there. Just make sure it's easily accessible. And then I think it's a very viable option, you know, if it comes down to that. And the last one I had on this list was batons.
Oh, interesting.
You know, the collapsible ones.
Right.
Because if you're like me, you carry around a small little purse or small little backpack, and you don't really have room for all these bigger objects to carry around for self-defense. So I think this is a very viable option because it is collapsible, and then you would use it very similarly to how you'd use like a baseball bat or whatever. Just hit the person.
Okay. Yeah.
Obviously, it's not a lethal weapon, but I mean, you could really hurt someone. Just like knock them down and run away.
Yeah. Yeah. Running away is always super important. Don't stay in the fight. Get out of it.
Mm-hmm. And on the chance that you don't really have access to any of these weapons, I think some good unconventional weapons could be things like keys. You know, you always hear about people kind of putting the keys in their fingers when they're walking to their car.
Between their knuckles, yep.
Yeah. I hate that we even have to do that, but
I know.
that is an option.
It's the world we live in.
It's I know it can hurt you a little bit, so just be careful, but if that's like a weapon you have to do, you have to do it.
Yeah.
You can also use like pens if it's a sturdy one. If you have like a little flimsy like Bic pen, good luck. But if you have like a nice sturdy one, you could really mess somebody up with that. Like a nice metal one.
Yeah.
If you are under the age of 18, hypothetically speaking, you probably could go to the store and buy bear repellent. And then I've heard hypothetically that bear repellent works almost exactly like pepper spray.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, you could hypothetically do that.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. And then another thing that I kind of thought of was a heavy flashlight.
That's
if you get one of those like big, thick metal ones, you could destroy someone's life with that. And then this is one that I thought was kind of funny because I was researching some options, and it's called a lock and a sock, and it's exactly what you're thinking. It reminds me of Samantha Puckett from iCarly.
The butter in the sock?
Yeah. The butter sock. But I think those are all like viable options. I think it really depends on your situation because every situation is going to be different, but really just keep in mind anything that you can use as a weapon. Those are just some that I kind of thought off the top of my head, except for the lock and the sock.
Yeah. One really good one is, especially if you're in, say, like you said, a desolate area, you could use rocks. You could use sand, right? Throw them in their eyes. Stuff to just kind of distract them so you can get away.
Exactly. Those are all good options because when it comes down to it, you're not there to fight them. You're there to get away.
Yes.
Like if they're attacking you, you're not fighting them to like kill them. You're fighting them to get them like subdued or get them to a point where they can't get up and then run.
Yes.
You're going to want to book it out of there. You're not going to want to stay there and just continue trying to hurt them because they might get that extra adrenaline and then just overtake you. And that's the last thing you want to happen.
Exactly. Do whatever means necessary. I'm going to keep using that word necessary to get home safe to your family.
Exactly. Because if they're not concerned about your well-being, destroy them. Just do what you can to get back because obviously they're not caring about you. Why do you got to care about them?
Right.
So now that we've kind of talked about some methods of keeping yourself safe and having some good self-defense tactics, I think we should talk about how to recognize a threat.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, a lot of these are very situational, but I did write some down after doing some research, and I've mentioned just a few things that I would consider how to recognize a threat. So, number 1, if your gut is telling you something is off and something is wrong, you need to listen. I know that a lot of times people are like, well, I have anxiety, I have whatever. Same. I'm telling you right now, your body knows what is wrong before your brain does. Your instincts are going to kick in before your brain does and before you even realize what's going on.
Exactly.
We are like quite literally like animals. Like we have those instincts and I think people forget that.
I definitely agree. Yeah. I mean, we at the end of the day, we are just animals, even though we call ourselves humans, but we are animals. And like you said, instincts, they're really powerful.
They are. And like, not to get into like this deeper conversation, but like your intuition it's usually not wrong when you're in situations like this and your gut is just like, no, like something's wrong.
Yeah.
Because if nothing was wrong, that wouldn't really be happening. You know what I mean?
Right. So
just besides, feeling for yourself, something feels wrong, I think just try to notice other people's mannerisms because if they're like constantly looking at you or they're kind of actively making an effort to be near you and you have no idea who this person is, it's like a really good sign that they're attempting to at least go up to you or like get something out of you.
Right.
So always be aware of that and be aware of your surroundings because just especially being a woman, it sucks that we have to be so like hyper visual of everything around us because it really just chaps my ass. I'm sorry.
I understand. Yeah.
But like you just need to be really aware. So yeah, basically just notice the person's mannerisms. If they are acting fishy and just completely abnormal, trust yourself because something's wrong. They're not gonna randomly start following you people don't do that
Right.
unless they're trying to talk to you or whatever. But if they're trying to talk to you, they're just going to come up to you. So obviously they want something from you. Another thing is just kind of focus on like fidgeting or seeing if they're kind of like getting ready for action, quote unquote.
Yeah. Body language is super important.
Yeah. Or if they're like target scanning, and they're all like a good indication of like a possible attack. So according to the London wingchun.co,
Okay.
that was a mouthful. I have a few quotes from them that I'd like to read, and I think they kind of sum up everything well. So
Sure.
in regards to kind of getting ready for action, they said, if your aggressor is clearing their hands during the confrontation, then it is likely an attack is impending. Simple acts of putting things away, dropping bags, even zipping up pockets are strong indications of a person getting ready for action.
Interesting.
100% true. Because if you see somebody dropping their stuff, run.
Yeah,
Just like get out of
exactly.
there. Especially if they're looking right at you too. They're gonna do something, and they're anticipating that they need their hands open.
Right.
And then in regards to fidgeting, they said you could look for swaying, clenching in the jaw, and erratic movements. If a person goes from being calm and standing in one place to suddenly pacing and fidgeting, then be aware that they may be considering an attack. And obviously I do want to mention, obviously there's going to be people who, who are not neurotypical, you know what I mean, who may have these behaviors and stuff like that. But if it's like being directed at you, you can tell,
Right.
And if you just got in like even a tiny little bit of like confrontation, they're starting to act like erratic, that's a big sign that something's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And lastly, in regards to the target scanning, they say a bad guy will test to see how vulnerable you are to gauge the risks they face from attacking you. Perhaps to see if they can catch you off guard. Look out for scanning behavior. An attacker will not only scan your physical vulnerabilities, but also your belongings. They may even look around to make sure it's safe to proceed.
Oh, wow.
Very common. I've noticed that, like, just like working in the prison, people get in fights. That happens.
Right,
so that all of these are 100% true. I've like witnessed these.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't really think that people would like test for physical vulnerabilities. I thought a lot of attacks, at least what I would think of a lot of attacks, were not as premeditated as that. I feel like a lot of them would be more like, oh, I see that person, they look small, I'm gonna go take their money.
I mean, that is definitely a thing. They do target people who they find as easy targets, kind of like what I was saying earlier. But if you piss somebody off, like even if it's like accidentally or unintentionally, they're going to look at you and they're going to want to fight you. Like there's nothing you can really do about that.
Yeah.
And they're going to look you up and down and they're going to say, okay, do I think I can physically fight this person? So they're gauging how well they think they would do in a fight with you.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Mm-hmm. I'll also leave a link to that page in the description just so you guys can kind of read more about those, because there is a lot I didn't even mention from the website, but I think it's a very good read, so definitely check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to kind of get towards the end of this topic, I really want to mention some like red flags and how to handle these threats.
Okay.
So just personally as a woman, these are some really big red flags to look out for, especially when online dating, because I'm so sick and tired of seeing people get assaulted and get like taken advantage of because they literally just want to find love, or they literally just want to go on a date with a guy and meet somebody new, and they're being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So the first one I have on this list is if they get upset that you want to meet in public. That is a huge red flag.
Ooh, yes.
Never, ever, 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 ever meet somebody in a private place, please. Like, don't meet at their house and don't meet in an isolated area, because first of all, you don't know who is at that house. This person could be catfishing you.
Yeah. They could definitely put on a completely different face when texting, and then in person they are a psychopath.
Well, exactly. And you don't want to go to this place that you've never been to. You've never even seen them in public yet. And if they get upset about you wanting to meet in public with them first, that's a huge red flag. Why would a normal person care?
Exactly.
Like, think about it for 2 seconds. Why would they care? They wouldn't, unless they have ill intent.
Yep.
Another thing is if they refuse to let you take yourself somewhere. So if they insist on coming to your house and picking you up, and they absolutely do not want you to take your own ride, that's sketch.
I definitely agree. That's a really good point.
I understand chivalry and everything, but for real, if you have not met somebody yet and they want to come to your house, they will now have if you say yes, you have given them your address. They know where you live, and then they have you. So, in the chance that you get away or whatever, if they have ill intent, they can go back to your house.
Yeah, exactly. They know where you
live.
So
obviously, I'm not going to victim shame because that's bullshit. But please do not give people your address that you do not know. And absolutely, on the first date or the first time you were meeting somebody, do not let them pick you up. Like I said, do not let them pick you up. Find your own ride. I know if you don't drive, I know it's hard, but get your friend or get an Uber, just depending on where you live. I know it's hard, and you might be tempted. It's not worth it. Your life is not worth it. Just to meet some guy who probably sucks.
And the roles could be reversed. Guys, follow this advice with women as well.
That's very true, because people will catfish as women, and there'll be like men, and they'll be like killing you or whatever else. You know, it's happened. So definitely protect yourself. This can go for any gender, but I'm just saying from my experiences as a woman who has dated and has gone into the dating world, this is what I've experienced. And a few other red flags is just, if you can't find them on social media, they say they don't have any social media, they're hiding something. Like, I don't know any person who wasn't hiding something that does not have a social media, if that makes sense.
At least if they were born anytime after 1980. I know a lot of people who are kind of in the older demographic and don't really have social media just because they just don't prefer it.
Okay, think about it. If you're on a dating app, you don't have social media.
That is also very true.
And obviously, when that happens, reverse search the image.
Yeah.
I cannot stress this enough. People are lazy. They don't want to find a real person that they know that posts pictures. They're just going to go on Google and find images. And the last thing I'm going to mention about this is if they won't FaceTime with you, because that's obviously another indication that they are not who they're saying they are, or that they could be a catfish.
Right.
I did actually forget this one red flag that I want to mention is, this isn't even really a red flag. This is like a huge red, I don't even know what.
Building.
Big red building. This is like one of those flags you see outside of those dealerships that are just huge. You know what I'm talking about?
Wacky inflatable two-mans.
Not thinking about those. I'm talking about like the giant American flags they have outside of the dealerships.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like that, but a huge red flag. If you have told the person more than once that you would like to leave you alone, and then they just continue, that is a major red flag, because that shows they don't respect you.
Yep.
And this could go for like a stranger. This doesn't even have to be somebody you're dating or talking to. This can just be some like random person that's kind of come up to you anywhere, and they're just bugging you. They're like, "Ma'am, can I get your number? You're so sexy." Or, "Hey, King, damn, can I get your Snapchat?" Or whatever. Anything. If you say no, and then they just continue, they don't respect you. They obviously don't care about your feelings, and they just want something out of you, and it's gross. And avoid that at all costs.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have anything you want to add for red flags?
No, that basically covered everything I was thinking.
I really thought in depth about it, because there are some major red flags that I've seen people put up with. No. I've put up with some crazy ones too.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But y'all really need to think about this. Do not let people disrespect you. That is a huge thing, especially if you're getting in a relationship with somebody. Do not let them disrespect your boundaries. Why would you want to date somebody who does not care about you as a person, or cares enough about you to respect your own personal boundaries and respect your feelings? No.
Yeah, because they clearly just care about themselves.
Yeah. Get away from that whole situation.
Very toxic.
I don't even care if it's dating, or if it's just some random person, or if it's self-defense. Get away from that person.
Yep.
As for handling threats, I do have a few things I would like to mention as that as well.
Yeah.
So a major thing is if you're alone, make sure that you're getting back to a populated area as soon as possible. Just really avoid being alone because, you know, I feel like people are less likely to attack in a huge group than they would be with one person. You know, it's easier to get a target that's alone, that doesn't have anybody around them, in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that one. One funny one that I saw it was a video I saw a long time ago. It was a college student who was walking down the street, and the car just kind of stopped next to him, and they noticed, well, this isn't what you want. So he started running backwards, and then the car had to make a U-turn. It started catching up to him. College student just turned around, ran the other way, and he just kept going back and forth, and then he wound up the car just was like, you know what, screw this, I'm out. I thought it was funny.
This is random, but I saw this GIF the other day, and it was this guy, and he was getting gas, and I think this was like a team of people trying to carjack him. So what he did is he started spraying them with the gas. Ooh. They ran the fuck out of there.
Especially if you have a lighter in your pocket. Ooh.
Exactly.
Mess someone up.
Would be a shame if your ass got lit up. But also, another thing, as I mentioned earlier, you want to get out of the attack as soon as possible. You're not really going to want to sit around. So once the attacker is down, just book it, get out of there, and try to find other people so you can get help. Yeah. Especially if you're injured.
Exactly.
I also kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier as well, but you want to portray yourself in a confident manner because attackers are going to try to go for easy targets. They're going to want to go for those frail old people. They're going to want to go for the girl who's jogging alone. They're going to want to go for people who they think they can easily take advantage of. So really, I hate that you even have to do this. Just try to make yourself less of a target. Oh God, it makes me so angry. I gotta move on. It makes me angry.
Understandably.
So we did kind of mention these throughout the episode today, but please only try to resort to violence as a last resort because you don't want to just be going around beating people up for just being disrespectful. It's annoying. I hate disrespectful people, but you cannot just go around here just beating people up for the fun of it.
Exactly. If you're a victim of it, use your voice, use your words, scream, be loud.
Yes, scream.
Let it be heard that you're in a situation that's not ideal.
Exactly, because kind of like I was mentioning before, when attackers are seeing other people going around, there's a way more chance that they're getting caught, so they're going to leave.
Yeah, exactly. And
to kind of end off on that, just try to stay calm when stuff like that happens. I know that it's so easy just to get overwhelmed and get nervous because these fucking creeps or these losers are coming up to you and trying to fight you, and they're trying to talk to you disrespectfully, so you engage with them. But just try your best to stay calm. Do not engage in their bullshit rhetoric. Do not try to let them talk you into fighting. It's not worth it. And how I mentioned in the episode where we were talking about conspiracy theories and the missing persons, just getting overwhelmed will just cause more issues and confusion. And if you're in a situation where you're just randomly having somebody come up to you and they're getting aggressive and they want to fight, that could be so overwhelming. You just have to try your best to keep calm. You don't want to make any mistakes. You don't want to do something to where the attacker gets the advantage. You just really have to try to keep yourself calm.
Absolutely.
These are some things I personally do, but I always try to let people know where I'm going. When I want to go to the store, I'll tell my mom, hey, I'm going here really quick, or just doing anything really. Even if it's something super minor, I'll let somebody know. And I also have Life 360. It's like an app that tracks your phone and you can add family members or friends or whatever you want on there. That's really effective. You can put specific locations to where you'll be. So if there is an issue and you are quote unquote missing or something happens, they can see that location.
Yes, exactly.
Another thing is, I think on iPhone it's Find My Friends. I want to say that's the app, but I always share my location with my mom and my sister. So in case anything happens, they at least know where my phone is. And just a personal opinion, I have an Apple Watch, so I wear that. I try to wear it as often as I can, and mine does have the cellular option on it, so I can call 911 if something happened.
That's really
I actually
smart.
did have to I was in a car accident. I did have to use my watch to call my mom because I could not find my phone. So the only way of contacting somebody I had was to use my watch.
Wow.
I was very happy that I had that.
Yeah, that's a super useful resource.
And unless the attacker's like really thinking about it and they're like, let's say you get kidnapped, they're probably not really thinking about your watch, especially if you're wearing like a long sleeve jacket or whatever, they're not even going to notice. So that's a way they can track you too, is if you are with your family members, they can track your watch. So if you can, and if you're comfortable with that option, I consider it. I have used it a lot and I highly recommend it. But another thing that I can think of off the top of my head is when you get in your vehicle, only unlock your door. Do not unlock all of them unless there's other people with you.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's like probably one of the easiest ways to get your ass carjacked. Because they're just going to pull up the door. Just keep your shit locked.
Yeah.
I know it's so annoying, but you just got to do it.
Yeah. And like you were saying, always keep it locked because someone could just hop into the back seat and hide while you're driving. There they are.
Exactly. And I'm too paranoid for that. I always look in the back seat. There's no way. I'm not letting some person get in my car.
Yeah.
But some cars just have a manual option for that. I know personally I have a keyless entry. So, well, I guess not technically keyless entry, but I don't have to use the button on my keys to open my door. All I have to do is like reach for the door handle and it'll unlock. So if I open the driver's side door, it's just gonna unlock the driver's side door, but if I pull the passenger side door, it unlocks all of them. And I know that a lot of cars are different. Definitely test it out, see how it works for you. Just try your best to not unlock all of the doors unless you have to.
Yeah.
And then just to top it off, always stay aware of your surroundings. That's all I can say. Just stay aware of your surroundings, because I think that's probably one of the easiest ways to kind of get attacked, because if you're not staying aware of the people around you and you're not staying aware of what is around you, you can easily become a target.
Exactly. Being aware of your surroundings is so important. So important.
Exactly.
If you got nothing else from this, take away that. Just be aware of your surroundings. It can save your life.
Exactly. And so to end today's topic, I think I just like to mention the importance of self-defense. You know, we mentioned that it can help save your life, you know, can help you get out of sticky situations, all of that. But personally, no matter how much you kind of teach people to not rape and you teach them that murder is bad and you teach them not to hurt people, they're still going to do it. There are still evil people out here who are going to hurt people, and that's just what they want to do, and they just want to like take advantage of you, and they want to kidnap you, they want to sell you into sex slavery, they want to do whatever. It is up to us to defend ourselves. And I'm so, as I said so many times this episode, I'm so sick of seeing people become targets and be attacked by pathetic losers.
And they just get away with it. It makes me
so angry. And they just get away with it because, you know, sometimes, there's no proof, there's no whatever. And it's so irritating. And I know that it's just like on both ends of that too. It's just so irritating. Yeah. So it's like, why not protect yourself? If nobody else is going to try to be out here protecting you, protect yourself.
Exactly.
You cannot rely on these other people. I wish we could. I wish that I could walk around the city at midnight, just do whatever, have fun, but we can't do that because we're going to get attacked, or there's a good chance that we'll get attacked, and it's just not worth it.
No.
I want my fellow ladies out there to stay safe. My fellow whatever gender people, stay safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just women who are being attacked, it's everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sorry that was such a heated topic today. It just makes me really passionate, especially listening to these true crime cases and just hearing about these people who got kidnapped or taken and we just don't know what happened to them. It just upsets me so much because I want people to be able to protect themselves and not become victim to these pathetic losers who have to hurt other people to feel joy.
Exactly.
Or do whatever.
Yeah.
And because a lot of these times these people think they can just get away with it because, oh yeah, I'm so good. F*** you. Lily Rest in piss, bitch.
Yep.
Oh my god. But yeah, it makes me heated, and I just want people to stay safe, and I just think it was a very important topic to discuss today.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully you learned something and got something out of it.
Exactly. And I really encourage you guys, if you do want to keep yourself safe, research some of these methods, do more extensive research, see what else is out there as well. Because, there's so many different options of protecting yourself besides the ones we've mentioned in today's episode.
Yep.
But,
Yep.
yeah. Please stay safe. Please do not become a victim. I do not want to hear about any of y'all getting attacked. I will personally go out there and beat some ass. I want y'all to stay safe.
Yes. Please stay safe. We love you. And if you're watching on YouTube, remember to like, subscribe, comment. If you didn't like the video, dislike. We encourage it.
Mm-hmm. And share with all your friends too, so they can hear it as well.
Yes. Yes, please
They
do.
can listen to me get angry. And if you didn't like the video and you hate us, you can just go in the comments and call us stinky.
Stinky, stinky.
Like the Little Caesars man. Pizza. It's like stinky.
I
don't know why I just thought about that.
Yeah, I didn't even realize I was doing that. That's awesome.
I think I was thinking about like those Little Caesars farts you got going on.
Ooh.
Because I was thinking about stink.
Yeah.
But thank you guys so much for listening today. I really appreciate your guys' views and your guys' input into our topics. We love the comments we get. We love the interactions on our Facebook posts.
Always.
And remember, stay sunny.
Stay sunny.